Tom, thank you for joining me on GV Talks.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having me.
How's your morning been?
Busy, painting away.
Yeah.
A couple of personal things, trying to get off the books.
Yeah, you're the first person who's asked for a morning interview.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which is strange. You know, I'm a night person, so mornings don't really work for me. But
Yeah, when I said 10, I was like, I hope he doesn't want like 7 or...
oh no, mate. At 7, I'd be busy doing other things. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you want to let the Shepparton people know who they're listening to?
So my name's Tom Day. I'm an artist based out of Shepparton, so I'm a Shep boy. I was born here. The oldest of 6, only boy.
Yeah.
So 5 sisters. But I left Shep when I was about 3 years old, and with my grandparents, and moved down to a place called Hayward, in the southwest of Victoria, so about an hour west of Warrnambool. And I grew up at a place called Allambie, which is 20 kilometres out of that town. So Hayward, population of around 900 people. So when I say I'm a country boy, I definitely mean it.
Yeah, well, why did you move away with your grandparents?
Not too sure, really. I think my grandmother, wanted to go home, back to where she came from. They'd lived in Shepparton for, well over 30 years,
Yeah.
had their kids here, raised their kids here. I think it was more a need for Nan just to go home.
Yeah. Who was your male role model growing up?
My grandfather, and he still is, so I'm lucky. I've got my grandparents both still alive. 2 years ago they moved back to Shepparton, both in their 80s. My father's parents, my grandparents from my dad's side are still alive as well, and they've never left here. I'd say my grandfather's still my role model.
Yeah, awesome. What lessons did you learn from those guys growing up?
I think everything I am, all the best parts of me are from lessons from them. So my grandmother's, my grandparents both born on a mission. My grandmother was born on Lake Conda Mission. She's the only person alive left that was born on that place. My grandfather was born on Moonaculla Mission, northwest of Deniliquin.
Yeah.
Complete opposites. So my grandmother's very political.
Yeah.
Sort of really got involved in Aboriginal advocacy and those political movements. And my grandfather is just the quintessential bushman. Very quiet, unassuming.
Yeah.
Doesn't really get involved in any of that. So I think I had the perfect blend. And around that time, a lot of the meetings were being held at my house.
Yeah. Wow.
So I'm the kid just walking around when, you've got really powerful figures in the community and in that movement just meeting at your kitchen table. So you'd hear all those discussions. But for the most part, where I grew up was basically on a swamp. So, my childhood was basically with my grandfather and my uncles, out the bush, hunting, fishing, shooting, camping, being educated as well.
Yeah.
So, where my nan comes from is a volcanic sort of wetland system, which is rare across Victoria. And I grew up at the most northern edge of that landscape. And my ancestors sort of built a freshwater aquaculture system as well. So last year they were put on the World Heritage List.
Wow.
Purely for its cultural values. And we are recognised around the world as the oldest freshwater aquaculture on Earth.
Was it hard growing up?
No, mate, it had everything we needed. Certainly didn't grow up well off or anything like that.
Yeah.
But in terms of, never went without.
Yeah.
And freedom. I had complete freedom just to roam that bush and basically do whatever I wanted to do. And, I got to wag school a bit as well, which was good. Because at the time, my grandparents and my nan's family were heavily involved in tourism. So, I got to tag along and be a part of the tourism as well. And, if anyone was coming to do research on us and, in terms of archaeology and anthropology, I'd be the kid tagging along.
Yeah, wow. What tourism stuff did your grandparents do?
Landscape-based,
Yeah.
Cultural tourism.
Yeah.
Across different properties that we managed and owned, from the coastline. So the southern border of where my grandmother comes from, is 200 kilometres of coastline, all the way inland to those freshwater aquaculture systems,
Yeah.
where my nan's people came from, and sort of, telling the story of the mission and the story of the people as well. So I think I'm the product of a very healthy upbringing,
Yeah.
in terms of, understanding one's identity and who they are in the world. But also, my grandparents didn't have a chance to get an education, so education was pushed as well.
Yeah.
So, completing VCE and things like that was done more for them.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Can you elaborate on what you mean by you know who you are in the world?
Well, I'm a Carrot Mara man, part of the Gunditj Mara Nation, and I come from this little pocket in southwest Victoria. I've had the chance to travel the world, and but I go with the understanding of knowing exactly where I come from, and not questioning my place in the world, and who I am within it.
Do you think what you do meets what the world needs?
Yeah, well, I don't think the world is changing. I think the world has changed.
Yeah.
We're just seeing the next iteration of it with the pandemic and everything else. I think more now than ever, people want to feel connected to something or where they are or
Who they are.
Who they are, yeah. I think that's the most important lesson to be learned. I think the conscience within the world is changing as well. People's connection to it. Creating more of an understanding of what it means to be a human being in 2020. I think that the thirst for knowledge about other people's origins and their culture and everything has become, it's not so much tokenistic anymore, it's a real thing. People want to know, and I can't expect anyone or I can't be angry at anyone for asking a question, because I don't know.
Yeah.
I think now more than ever, we need each other to forge whatever we're going to do.
And you think the pandemic's brought that forward?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that time spent, you reevaluate what's important. You forget about the things that are sort of false emergencies in the world or in your world, and you tend to just want to be around things that make you feel good and reevaluate, well, I haven't spoken to this person for a while, and we were pretty close once, or in my case, I come from a really big family, and not having had time or the opportunity to see my grandparents.
Yes.
Things like that. I think this pandemic was like a leveler. Everyone's going through it.
I completely agree, and that is my anecdotal experience as well. Like, it put everything in perspective.
Yeah.
Like, everything that was important and a lot of things that I was carrying around that weren't important, I think now I'll definitely live without or not tend to as much or give as much attention.
Yeah, I think, in the sense of what I do, it didn't change in terms of producing artwork. And what I do is pretty solitary anyway.
Yeah.
But I know that my work quadrupled, and maybe it was because people were spending time at home and were thinking about, I always wanted to get this piece done, or I don't like the look of my house and I'd like to have something here that brightens it up. So I've certainly found that, even with the subject matter that people sort of reach out and request, you're sort of seeing the range of emotions that people have gone through here. And so I take what I do seriously in terms of, people reaching out and thinking that I can produce something that is relevant for them.
Yes. When did you realise your gift for art?
I think I'm still realising it. I don't think you ever sort of get to a point where you feel, oh, I've reached the pinnacle of it and this is what I'm going to do and nothing else. But I think I got exposure to the art world when I was 15.
Yeah.
So I went to a secondary school of 200 students, and I had an art teacher that was always trying to push me to, outside my comfort zone with art. And there was a national design competition for Billabong, the surf brand, and I wasn't interested in doing anything with it. And he was trying to steer me towards it, still rejected it until he made it compulsory for all the students in the class to do it. So I designed that. Nothing Aboriginal in terms of content. I come from a surf culture down in southwest Victoria, so I was purely surf-based. And I won. And thinking back on it now, I don't think I understood what it represented in terms of the brand and things like that. But I think that's where I got my exposure to that world.
Do you think having someone believe in you when you didn't believe in yourself was a pivotal moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, do you think you would have went down this path if that teacher hadn't have done that for you?
Probably not. Probably not, to be honest.
How cool is that?
Yeah, I mean, I had family that and uncles, when I'd left high school and was doing other things in the community, saying, you should be doing your art. But at the time I thought I could never make a living just doing art. But that teacher of mine, I think he was one of my biggest inspirations when I was starting out. And I think that's the driving factor, to have people that actually believe in what you do is critical.
Yeah, especially when you can't see it yourself initially.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at my situation, growing up in a town of 800, 900 people, in a high school of 200 students, and this national thing comes along and someone thinks you're good enough to compete. I don't think I fully understood it when it was happening. It was more just about the process of doing it. I thought, oh yeah, cool, I'll do this.
How would you define art?
Art, to me, I think is freedom. I think it's raw, it's emotional. I think it's one of the last platforms in the world where the truth is told.
Yes.
Because it's so raw and unemotional. But to me, I think it represents freedom. Whatever you're feeling at the time, you produce it, and you're influenced by whatever emotions going through you at the time.
Can you describe that? Is it something where you look at the blank piece of paper and you envision what you want it to be, or is it stroke by stroke, it kind of unravels itself from you?
I think I approach it with a very rough concept in my head, visually. I'm not your conventional artist, so I have no sketchbook or anything like that. I'm purely driven by what's going on at the time. And then I think I find my groove at some point through it, and when it hits, because everything just becomes easier and you're just laying, paint strokes and things. And I don't sort of get in my head too much about it, trying to figure it out from an intellectual point of view. It's just shapes and colours, and you're just trying to bend the shape and bend the colour and trying to stay true to whatever narrative you've got in your head.
Yeah. How would you describe your style?
It's funny. I get a lot of people saying that my work is unique. To me, it's based on the traditional form of artwork that comes from where I come from. So to me, I don't think it's unique at all. It's unique in the sense that no one has really understood it before. They automatically think, Aboriginal artists, oh yeah, dot painting, which I certainly don't do. I've never done dot painting in my life. But I think my style can be described as contemporary, abstract, Aboriginal. I'd like to just say that it's art.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be defined by by a particular style because my inspiration to do it comes from many different styles, not just Aboriginal art. If you look at my colour concepts, the influence there is Monet from the Renaissance period in France. But my iconography stays very true to my origins, and my identity as a Karamara man. So,
but specifically, it's fine lines. Is that right?
very fine,
Yeah.
very detailed. I'm struggling with the idea of being very loose with the technique at the moment.
Yeah.
So a less is more approach, because inherently I just reach for detail. But that's the challenge of being an artist, to experiment and expand. But I think it's a very fine art. I don't know how I do it, to be honest. But it's taken me 39 years to be able to do it. And now I'm at a point where I want to see, well, I can paint a straight line and I can paint tens of thousands of them. But what else can I do with it?
Yeah.
How else can I experiment and bend it and stay true to the iconography of it? But in terms of the actual product itself, how can I play with it?
Why did you want to change the style?
To challenge myself.
Yeah.
I don't want to get to the point where I'm just producing the same thing over and over and over again, and because then the enjoyment of it will probably go out of it. And art's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing should be fun. So in terms of wanting to change, I'll always stay true to that style. But at the moment, it's more just trying to just experiment, just to play with it, because I can.
Yeah, I completely understand. Something that when I speak to other artists, they always struggle releasing what they've produced because it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's aiming for that, but they're never going to get it. Like, do you ever struggle with that? Like, you're like, oh, I'm not ready to release this piece because I feel like I could make it better? Or do you just put it straight out as soon as you think you're done with it?
Well, I think in the case of most artists, most of us are introverted anyway, so we keep a lot of things on the inside. And I think it takes courage to actually put something you've produced out there for the public to see. So there's always that fear. But yeah, I'm my own harshest critic, mate. I've done work in the past, and if I had the chance to do it again, I'd do it completely different.
Yeah.
But I have to accept that, what I painted at that time captured that moment in time. And, for me, so I don't necessarily promote myself. So I don't have a website or anything. This whole exposure at the moment came from just people seeing my Instagram. And that was done deliberately. I wanted to keep my anonymity as much as possible. But I think having the courage to put it out there, and it was more for me. I don't think I was putting it out there trying to get likes or for this thing to become what it's become. It was more my need to express whatever was happening at the time, and then putting it out there. I'm very fortunate that people like it, and I've been able to create a business from it, and this is my life now. But I'm under no illusion that that everyone's going to like it every time, and it's not always going to be a home run. But I've accepted that, but I'm painting for me,
yes,
not for anyone else. So, as long as I'm happy with what I'm producing, then that's what's important. If I can produce something for someone, in terms of a commission or private commission, then that's deeply humbling, because people have put confidence in you to think, well, this person can visually create what I'm thinking.
One of the interesting things that you said just then is a lot of artists are introverts. Do you think that's the reason why they're artists is so that they can express how they're feeling, and they can't necessarily do it via other forms like communicating with large groups of people or express themselves in loud ways.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I have the art world and what I do figured out, I think.
Yeah.
But in terms of expressing it and the human interaction part, I am completely out of my comfort zone there. If I'm speaking purely about art, in terms of a one-on-one or a small audience, then great,
Yes.
because the passion shines through and I can talk about it all day. But I even struggled, for the process. Visually, I have the idea in my head, the narrative, the idea is there, of what I'm trying to create. In terms of writing it down, I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the journey. You find, as much as you're creating for other people and for yourself, you're finding more about yourself than you ever thought possible. You understand where your shortcomings are coming from, and you understand what you excel at. So continue to excel at what you do well, but work on the things that
Yes.
that you can improve on. So whilst it's art, it's more about just living and learning.
The arts helped you develop your character.
I think so.
100%.
I think so.
That's what it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah. I believe so. Because art is a conversation starter as well. I'd spent a lifetime before ever doing what I do now in very high-profile positions within community, centering around native title and cultural heritage. And I find the conversations I have now just through the production of art are far more expanding.
Yeah.
Because art has no boundaries. And art is very visual, it's an eye test. If you see it, you like it.
Yeah.
But then you get the chance to, if you meet the artist, you get to know more about what was the emotions that were going on that created this piece. What does it really represent from an emotive level? And then it tends to mean a hell of a lot more.
Yes. How do you get that story across to people who don't get the chance to meet you? Because I agree with what you just said then, but only like a handful of people will probably get the true meaning of every piece of art, like 5 people for each piece. Or
I look at today, we're doing a podcast, that will reach a far more wider target audience than I ever could personally. And people may want to reach out because of it. Mm-hmm. At least they get a basic understanding of what I'm about in terms of my approach to art. And this is what you get far beyond just the painting. You get a piece of me basically, because an artist reveals elements of themselves in every art piece they do. So that person gets to take that away.
do you think you can look at a piece of art as you are now and then look at it again in the future and it means something different?
Yeah, I believe that. I look at some of the old pieces of artwork I've done, and I think, gee, how far have I come since then?
Yeah.
I think I'm a hell of a lot better than what I was, say, 5 years ago, but that's through constant discipline and practice and wanting to get better. But to me, what I do, I just capture moments. Whatever I'm feeling at a time, I'll paint it. And then, it's captured that moment in time. Even with what I do now, some of the subject matter is very based on my stories, my dreaming stories and things like that, then I'm a conduit. I'm capturing something that is very ancient, but in 2020. I look at, where I come from, and I think, well, the landscape has changed so much. So from the point of view of, say, my great-great-grandfather who produced the possum skin cloak in the 1840s that's now in the Melbourne Museum, what he produced was what he saw. What I produce is what I see. Same subject matter, but the landscape has changed completely. The only thing I look at through the lens of my great-great-grandfather would be the sky,
Yeah.
because the sky doesn't change. The constellations are still there for a reason, but everything on the land has changed completely. So I think the important thing is to understand the art in that context, and trying to understand where you come from and the landscape your ancestry comes from, and trying to hold on to that in terms of the narrative. But the visual, then you rely on yourself. That means walking it, that means understanding every element of it and then producing it.
Do you think your ancestors live through you?
Yeah, I think they live through us all.
Yes, I agree.
I think everything we do as Aboriginal people, it's funny, as much as we want to be different in a very modern world, we are still a reflection of our ancestors and elders, no matter what.
But you don't want to forget your culture.
Oh, no, absolutely
yeah.
not. I think that's the defining thing about us. And it's not to say that that's what makes us different and things like that. It just makes us who we are.
Yeah.
I'm influenced every day by who I am and my ancestry and understanding that.
Yeah.
I was raised in a very rich cultural environment, which is rare in itself, particularly in Victoria, but I definitely grew up on it. My group was the first to receive native title in Victoria. I signed off on that agreement in 2007, so even my name is inextricably linked to that moment. Going to London in 2010 to retrieve your ancestors' remains that had been there for 180 years. You're inextricably linked to it.
Yeah.
Our culture didn't die 200 years ago, as much as archaeologists want to pretend it did.
Yeah.
Because we are the living embodiment of the spirit of what it means to be us. There's a beauty in understanding that and just being that.
Do you get solace that when you pass on, your art will still be here and your story will still be accessible to so many people?
Yeah, I like the idea of that. And in a lot of ways, that's why I do what I do. And I do it more, at the moment. So I've been commissioned, to produce the artwork for the Parliament of Victoria.
Do you want to give us the full story on that?
Yeah. So I was approached by the Legislative Council of Parliament last year to talk about the idea of possibly producing an artwork that would hang in the halls of Parliament and used for Parliament's inaugural Reconciliation Action Plan. So Parliament's been around for 190 years. So this is the first time it's ever been done. So, it's not so much pride that I feel doing it. It's a huge responsibility because I have to capture a relationship between two distinct groups over a 190 period, but also trying to capture the whole of Aboriginal Victoria in this painting. So I can't make it too centric to myself and my distinguishable groups. With it, there's 36 language groups in Victoria. I just belong to one.
Yeah.
So the concept is based around something we can all agree on and have an affinity to, which is our identity, which comes from country. We have distinct, landforms that our ancestry comes from. So I'm in the process of producing this artwork at the moment. And I'm working at a Marupna Secondary College and actually working with the Year 9 students to document this process.
Yeah.
Which again will be a first. So instead of just having a written narrative that hangs beside a nice looking painting in Parliament, this will have a video screen beside it where the students will own that video.
Wow.
So they'll produce it, they'll edit it, and I've left it completely in their hands to do it. I said, well, I'm going to paint it, but I'm not going to try and tell you guys how to film it. I want to shine a spotlight on your creativity, because the conversation that's happening at the moment around reconciliation and what this painting represents is led by us and our generation, but it'll be inherited by theirs.
Yeah.
So by them taking a lead in the process, they're going to be far better situated and educated to have better conversations when it's their turn to lead them.
Do you think they understand that?
Yeah, I think that it's exciting.
Yeah.
Just sitting with them and getting their thoughts on what they think reconciliation is. And this group is not Aboriginal. It's whether you're black, white or brindle, it's just the class that's doing it. So I like the idea of just hearing their thoughts. And I don't really tell them, well, I'd like it to look this way or that way. I have an image in my head of how to end it.
Yeah.
But that's the only one I'm holding on to.
Yeah, okay.
So they're really going for it. So I had to wait until they could come back to class to finish the painting.
Oh, yes.
To actually give them something to fill.
Yeah.
Because I work really, really fast. And I could have had it done by now, but it defeats the purpose of why we're doing it.
Yes. How long does a painting take?
It can take anywhere from a day, if I'm really feeling it, to a painting I've been working on for 2 years. So I don't own, I've never kept any of my own work either. I collect other people's work because I appreciate it. My grandparents probably have enough paintings where they could start their own gallery because I've given them paintings.
Yeah.
And they've got some of my first paintings as well as my latest ones as well. Uncles, if they find me at the right time, I gift them paintings.
Yeah.
Even to the point now, I've just put 10 paintings in Noble Monks here.
I've seen them. They look awesome.
Thanks, mate. And that was more of a thank you to them because they let me hang some of my artwork in there long before the exposure, shone a light on doing these bigger commissions outside of Shepparton. And so I gifted them paintings just as a thank you. And I think it makes it unique as well.
Yeah.
And, the response that I've gotten, apparently, talking to Sam and Ash and Raman, is that, it's created talking points, which is awesome.
What's the scale of the piece you're doing for the Parliament House?
So it's 2.8 metres wide by about 2.5 high. So it'll be one of the biggest paintings to hang in Parliament. It's unstretched, it's laying on the floor, and I bought a mattress and I lay on it and paint it. I just sit on it all day and just try and knock out as much as I can.
Yeah. What goals do you have moving forward?
Well, I got into it with no expectations, and everything has just become a blessing, and I'd rather just live in this moment or moment to moment and focus on what I'm doing. Moving forward, I think I'd like to, if I could, open up opportunities for other younger artists. If I have a platform to be able to do that, then I certainly will. And I do it now. I get asked to do a lot of commission work, and some I turn down because I just don't feel I don't feel that I could be the right person to do it. So I don't just take jobs because they're offered, because I respect what I do too much to do that. But I'll point them in the direction of young people and say, well, this is the person you should be going to. So I'll, vouch for that young person and really talk them up, and then I'll just support them through it. Yeah. The technical side of it. With the Parliament one, I'm mentoring some young people. And I took a young girl with me to Parliament when I met with the Legislative Council. And so she could see, how these ideas form. So it's not so much about the painting itself, it's the narrative. Well, this is how discussions begin. This is how you control your narrative in producing what you do. This is how you protect the story of it. Yeah. This is how you form a relationship, and then you go beyond that and then start producing it.
What do you think you've learned from being a teacher?
What do I think I've learned?
Yeah. Do you think that you learn being a teacher? I definitely do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't think you ever stop learning. Yeah. And I don't think I have anything figured out in terms of what I do in this art world. The day I think I know everything is the day I should walk away from it. So young people are teaching me as much as what I think I'm teaching them. These young artists teach me to not be stuck in a certain way, to still be inquisitive, to still, I know what I know, but that's all I know. And if that's it, then I don't know much.
Yeah.
You're always learning. In terms of inspiration and things like that. And it might sound very cliche, but life inspires me. The unexpected, life is finite, it ends. So trying to, live in the moment, not trying to get ahead of myself and talking about, plans for the future. Have none.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to live in the moments and enjoy them. Another big driver and inspiration, and no one would ever know this, could be a fleeting moment, of an interaction with someone.
Yeah.
That person will never know that. But that 10-minute interaction or that random conversation with someone could be the thing that inspires you to create a whole piece. So as long as you have an inquisitive mind and you want to know more and you're fascinated by people and human nature, in terms of what I do, I think I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because inspiration will never cease to exist. It'll always be there.
Do you have lots of moments that you just keep for yourself?
Absolutely.
Like you don't want to put it on a painting, you just want to have that that memory for yourself or that experience for yourself?
Yeah, I do. I've done a lot of things long before the Parliament job become known, but I didn't talk about it for a reason.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hold on to those moments. As much as people are talking about the Parliament job, at the same time I'm working on another commission where I'm doing artwork that's going to go on a building for a council in Melbourne. So my imagery will be superimposed to 10 by 20 metres across the council chamber windows. And there's discussions to do some more.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken about that. It's just, it is what it is. And, I want to be respected for what I do in terms of the art I produce and the artistic merit of it. But I could do without the notoriety that comes with it. As we said, we're introverted. If my life is spent just producing artwork, then it's a perfect scenario. At the moment, I do all the face-to-face meetings and everything else. I don't have a manager, I'm not represented by a gallery, although I'm in discussions now with several galleries outside of Shepparton. Interestingly enough, I'm a kid that grew up on a swamp, in the middle of nowhere. And that's all I'll ever be, and that's all I want to be, is that kid. And I don't want to lose that throughout all this journey I'm on, because that's what got me here. Mm-hmm. But I got an email this morning from a group in Las Vegas. I don't know how they found out about me, but they have. And so there's very early discussions about, if I'm interested in doing things.
Yeah.
And this is all happening to a guy that lives in Shep. Who didn't have to leave Shep to pursue a dream. He just trusted in what I did and put the work in, and because I don't believe in luck, I believe in dedication and work.
Yeah.
Will get you to where you are. So it's very funny. It's just one of life's ironies, I suppose.
You do good things just because they're good, not because of any other reason.
Yeah, I've spent during this journey. I've made a point to enjoy it. I've made a point to surround myself with good people and have fun and not think so much about negative discussions or things like that, because there's too many positives to focus on. Mm-hmm. Anger. Art is emotive, so even if I'm angry, it inspires me to do something in terms of art. But I'm not bitter.
Yeah.
I take it in for what it is, and and then I, create because of it, and then I just leave it. And as long as I hang on to that, then that's okay. It's funny, and the art world is very crazy. Some of the people I've met are very eccentric, but then because I'm curious anyway, and have an inquisitive mind, I look at it based on the fun side of it. I look and laugh and think, keep on, going back to that kid running around that swamp and thinking, who would have ever thought? I take what I do very seriously, and as I said, I protect it. Particularly the narrative of it, because I understand, any elder or any person that has taught me something, saw something in me, and gave me that.
Mm-hmm.
So I carry the responsibility of holding that, and so that is certainly not lost on me. People that reach out to me, that pay me money to produce artwork for them, that's not lost on me either. I have paintings in the National Museum in Canberra. I have 4 paintings in there, part of their collection. I have paintings in Japan, China, Switzerland, Germany, Russia, America. But I have some paintings that are hanging on multi-million-dollar mansions, walls. But at the same time, I have paintings in single parents' houses.
Yeah.
And you couldn't distinguish the difference between which one was better. If anything, I treat the ones for those everyday people are a hell of a lot more serious than the other ones I would. And people reach out and they tell me a story that resonates with me, then, and I may not have any time to really do it, but I'll say, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I don't do prints because I want my work to be authentic, and if you're paying for it, then I want you to have the original. It's yours. In terms of price, it shocks people because, for those personal little projects for those single parents and things, buying a print somewhere would be more expensive than the work that I produce.
Yeah.
So it's not really driven by economics. I'm very fortunate that I can live with freedom.
Yeah.
And my work is collectible. So that's a good thing. But I know why I do it.
What would you say to the young kids, or anyone really, doesn't have to be a young kid, who think that they can't be successful working out of Shepparton? Or working out of any small town?
I'd say that's a lie. And I'm proof. It wasn't just the Billabong thing at 15. I did work for Essendon out of that small town in Hayward. I did work for Ray-Ban sunglasses out of that small town in Hayward. I moved to Shepparton now, and this is what I do for a living. So, and you're going to have your detractors, some coming from a negative space, but if you don't have critics, you'll likely have no success. And don't worry about critics, because none of them are ever remembered. But sometimes the people that you love the most will be the ones that can hold you back. Not through a negative mindset, because they love you so much, they don't want you to see you fail or hit stumbling blocks. I don't think you ever fail. I think, you just hit stumbling blocks, and it comes back to that identity thing we were talking about. What I do, everything is tied to my identity. As long as I have that, then I'm going to be okay. But my advice to young people is, have your dream.
And be true to yourself.
Absolutely. Have your dream, but be disciplined and work towards it. Don't worry about how it comes to pass. Just know when it does.
Yeah, what you said off air was, it hit home with me. People think you're an overnight success. These last 2 years you've blown up, but they don't know the 36 years that happened before that.
Yeah, which is funny to me. You know, when I came here, people asked, "Oh yeah, I paint." Then it's sort of just brushed off, you know. And then, you know, they got a chance to see what I do, and they're shocked. And I said, "Well, I did say I paint," you know. And I look at the moments. I keep on talking about moments because I don't think too far into the future. I want to celebrate or live in the moments that I'm in and cherish them. The world has become so fast that no young person has the time to figure out who they are. You know, pop culture is going to tell you what you should be, and you gravitate towards that. Where I'm the opposite, you know, time is a concept I don't really look at. I work to deadlines in terms of my artwork, but how I do it is completely up to me. You know, I might have a deadline in 2 months, might have the work done in a week, but I might drag it out. It just depends what I'm feeling at the time. I think young people should spend every opportunity they can trying to work towards knowing who they are, knowing what they value, what's important to them. I have nieces and nephews now, you know, and as their uncle, you know, I'm trying to teach them, or you know, how I was taught.
Yeah.
You know, to value the most important things in life, to take the time to enjoy life. You know, it's meant to be lived. It shouldn't be spent watching others live it. It's a big wide world out there, you know, take advantage of what life has to offer, and I certainly have, and you know, I'm 39 now, but you know, I think I've crammed in a lot in my 39 years from, you know, working in native title, you know, through that process, and being a CEO at, you know, 27 and chairman at 25, you know, going to London, representing my group all the time, you know, spending time living in America, you know, with First Nations people there, and into Mexico and Canada, and, you know, piloting a project, so leading a delegation of 3 different Indigenous nations across Australia to America to share and learn, and now that program is run every year. Living on a mountaintop in Vanuatu with a tribal community. That really, or those experiences, changed my perspective every time. And I'd say to young people, particularly, because my passion, art is what I do. But the passion for young people is who I am. And my identity is who I am. Art is a byproduct of just who I am naturally. But I say to young people, keep an inquisitive mind. Want to know things. You know, go out and look for it. I had an auntie tell me once, my grandmother's elder sister, who was giant in our community, went back to university at age 70 plus, just to prove a point to young people. You never stop learning. This was a 2-time Amnesty International Woman of the Year. You know, small in stature, but cast the biggest shadow. And we're talking about destiny. You know, people are destined for great things because they're identified as being that when they're young. And I spent particularly during my youth and into my adult years, doing everything I could apart from what I'm doing now. But her words resonate with me. So she said, the funny thing about destiny is that it usually finds you when you're walking the road you took to walk away from it. It'll always find you. You just have to identify when it hits, you know. That's why I don't get too caught up in thinking so much, because I can't control what people think. You know,
Yeah.
And sometimes the most dangerous place to exist is in the mind of someone.
Yeah.
But my paintings serve as a reminder of trying to evoke some emotion in someone. So
And you think you've achieved that?
I think I'm getting there. I don't think... I celebrate the wins now. You with the Parliament one and other jobs and things like that, and the opportunities that have come because of it. I stay very true to the people that supported me when they saw this journey happening, such as noble monks. And I want to create opportunities for younger people. You don't have to leave where you live to become a success. You need to identify early on, well, what does success mean to me?
That's great. Who locally inspires you?
Still my grandparents, it's still them. My nieces and nephews, I have one niece said to her mother the other day, she asked her what she wants to be, and she said, I want to be like my uncle. She goes, oh yeah, that's, paint like him. She goes, oh no, I'll be better. Which I love.
Yeah.
So whilst I'm a bit older, I'll treat it like competition, but at some point I'll just realise that, can't compete anymore. But and people, just grassroots people, mate, inspire me. People having the courage to just step out of their comfort zone and just do something. I'm proud of anyone that's doing anything good, because I understand that, life is not fair, and human nature is a strange thing, and trying to navigate all these things, but staying true to yourself, I think, is the biggest lesson you'll learn. I'm lucky in the sense that I get to do what I love, and everything might sound like a cliche, but they are true. Parent for as long as I can remember. I've seen it evolve with my own eyes, and I'm my own worst critic. I've been afforded great opportunity because of the passion of what I do. As long as I can continue to have a passion for it, I think I'll be okay. But it's meeting people along the way is great as well. Not everything is roses, because life isn't. But hold on to the good things. If you find any good in the world, hold on to it for as long as you can. And my advice again to young people is, protect your individuality.
Yes.
Fiercely. Protect it. In case of what we do, as Aboriginal artists, the narrative is ours. And you have to stay true to that narrative and what you're trying to produce, because it's more an educational tool now than it ever was before. So you need to accept your role, or I have accepted my role now as not just being a painter or an artist. If people do get the opportunity to meet me, to talk about what I do, then they get a full-on immersive experience. Yes, well, I'm inspired by this, and yes, I'm, this was the emotion I was trying to stir. I have things going on when I'm displaying artwork. I'm trying to not trick people, but I'm trying to draw them in.
Yeah.
At that, most basic, rawest form. And, it's working so far. But I have to understand that, one day it might not. But as we were talking earlier, even if I wasn't getting paid to do this, I'd still do it. Because I have for 39 years.
Yeah.
So... And I treat it almost like that kid running in that swamp still, mate. I still treat it like that, because that's really who I am still, and that's all I'll ever be.
That's great, Tom. I think we will wrap it up there. I'll chuck all your Instagram links in the description below. Is there anything you want to leave the Shepparton people with?
No, mate. If my art can be seen. If you go to Noble Monks and say hi to the guys there, they'll let you go at the back and have a look at it. And no doubt you'll see me there. I'm not hard to find. I'm usually sitting in there having a coffee and sketching away on something. So yeah, but thanks for the opportunity, mate. And I hope that it might inspire a young person to reach out or just follow their dreams.
100%. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, mate.